So those leaders do the work on themselves, understand their triggers, lead with empathy, and then build psychological safety and trust in order to innovate and in order to be creative and in order to lead successful organizations.
And we're here once again. It's Relationships at Work, a leadership podcast helping you build workplace connection, improve culture, and avoid blind spots. I'm your host, Russel Lolacher, communications leadership expert, couple of successful decades in both those areas, and a whole heap of curiosity, just like you, on how we can make the workplace a better place. This is part 2 of my conversation with author, podcaster, and reputation management advisor, Charlotte Otter. I hope you enjoyed the last episode. We got really clear on reputation management, what it means, how we define it, why it matters to leadership. Really great nuggets in there. Well, guess what? We're just going to keep on rolling. This is part 2, and we're shifting the lens inward. We're exploring the relationship with ourselves when it comes to relationship management. Because if we're not self-aware, we're not honest with ourselves, if we're not preparing how we show up, understanding our reputation, there's some self-work we need to do in order to be better prepared to even embrace what our reputation is or isn't and how to manage that. And Charlotte's got some great suggestions on what we can do for ourselves to be better prepared. Welcome to part 2 of our conversation with Charlotte. Hold on. Now, that self-awareness piece has to be super integral to reputation management because you don't know what you don't know and you have to be aware of it to even manage it. Because I'm guessing this is not something you can outsource or delegate going, can you manage my reputation for me? I mean, to some point there is because we have PR firms when it gets to that level, but we don't have PR firms internally in the organization. So how do we recognize when our actions are not in alignment with the reputation that we want?
Yeah, I'll push back slightly on we don't have PR firms in the organization. So I ran executive communications at SAP, and we were like an internal PR firm. So we took responsibility for each of the board members and the CEO, and we would work very closely with them on what are your messages as an individual? How do those messages match the company messages? Where are your audiences? And how good are you at disseminating those messages? And if there are gaps, what do we need to fix?
But doesn't that take away, and I totally hear what you're saying, and I know organizations that absolutely do that, because there's some horrible executives that you never know are horrible because they've been rubber roomed to,
massaged.
They've been, absolutely. Yeah. Where's the accountability in that though?
Yeah, I mean, the accountability for them comes with critiques on LinkedIn. They post something and somebody pushes back. I mean, it's quite hard to get away with it now. It's quite hard. Or
Fair.
Glassdoor, or, the accountability does come.
It's almost like you hope their internal PR firm isn't too great, isn't too good at their jobs.
Yes.
Because that CEO or whatever could be poisoning the organization with their one-on-one conversations, and we don't know. And, because it's being kept silent. And again, this is a generalization, but there are many executives who are not leaders and who have never been told or trained properly that they may need to correct their behaviors. And we are going into extreme levels here, but there could be just cutting people off in meetings, or like there could be these little things that just pick away at someone's reputation that, So I feel like I totally get it from one side, and the other side, I'm like, could they take some responsibility themselves for their own reputation? Because that's a leader to me.
Yeah, for sure. And now in my work with clients as an independent consultant, I don't like to ghostwrite. I don't like to do polished images anymore. I would much prefer to empower somebody in how to show up as their best possible self, because to me, that's much more authentic. And I like authenticity. I want to see the real person. I don't want to see that polished, perfect exterior.
You can't see this right now, but I'm doing a slow clap to that. I hate ghostwriting. I get being too busy, but at the same time, we can't say authentic in one sentence and then go, could you write this for me? I'll just proofread it afterwards in the next. It is hypocritical, to say the least. So thank you for saying that. Again, also as a communications nerd, I'm like, you can't hire somebody else to build relationships for you. You have to do that yourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
So leaders in an organization, what are you telling them that they need to focus on? Personal habits, practices, developing, enhancing, to make sure that they have a handle on their reputation? What personal work do they might need to do?
Yeah, it's really about, for good leaders, not the bad type we've just been talking about. It's really about good self-knowledge. The leaders who I interviewed for my book, who are emerging or established leaders from diverse identities and backgrounds, have done the work. It's often because they've faced obstacles. So one of my interviewees was a CEO as a man and now is a trans woman and a board member. And she was able to compare and contrast what it was like leading organizations as a man, how easy it was when she gave instructions, and how much harder it is now as a woman. So what I'm saying is she went through massive obstacles to get where she is today. So she has beautiful self-knowledge. So I'm seeing that a lot. People who've had therapy, they've done coaching, they've done the work, they understand themselves, they know what their triggers are. That's the first part. Those people lead with empathy because of the obstacles they've been through. And they are inclusive in the way that they lead, but not inclusive and it's all, flowers and meadows and candy floss and holding hands and skipping. It's inclusive in that we can disagree and have uncomfortable conversations because we have already built the trust and the psychological safety in my organization. Because as I said at the top, you don't get innovation and creativity in organizations if you aren't having those really honest, really open conversations. So those leaders do the work on themselves, understand their triggers, lead with empathy, and then build psychological safety and trust in order to innovate and in order to be creative and in order to lead successful organizations.
What's really highlighted for me in that is that reputation management is far more about preparation, not reaction. So to that point, if say a leader in an organization does a misstep, and I just mean like everyday day-to-day operations, said the wrong thing to the wrong group and sort of fractured the reputation that they'd already been building, how do they recover from that? If they're, really working on their self-awareness, they're really prioritizing this, how did they adjust? Or do they, to your point, if they've got all that psychological safety work, it'll just work out itself?
No, they need to address it. So they need to take that team aside. They need to take that team aside and go, guys, I misspoke. I'm really sorry. I felt so uncomfortable when I got home that night. My partner told me I was an idiot. And I'm here to say I am open to you showing me the way. And next time I do something like that, call me out in the moment. Act with vulnerability. Brene Brown, vulnerability is strength.
What's come up a lot for me in a lot of the conversations I've had is the importance of, as a leader, you're part of the team. You're not an other of the team. And that a lot of leaders are very lonely in the sense that I am responsible for this team and it's almost like put on a shelf over there. I need to make sure that's the most productive, happy group possible without including themselves in it. So I love the fact that you're like, if you have a problem, don't wait too long to address it, because it's not something you come back 6 months later going, hey, remember that time I was an idiot in that meeting? Yeah, nobody remembers. They just hate you now. However, it's really important. I love that you're talking about like, no, that is your community. That is where you can rely on and your resource to be better, as opposed to, oh, it's just something I'm trying not to break every day.
Yeah, I love it too. And who doesn't want to be led by a leader like that? I've been led by those people who sit on the pinnacle and occasionally turn up and give some instructions. But I mean, employees are burnt out. People are exhausted. Work isn't working. People are miserable. And the onus is on leaders to make it better by creating these inclusive cultures that innovate and succeed.
What do you feel are some self-blind spots that we might have when it comes to understanding or improving our own reputations?
That's a good question. I think leaders really do need to ask for feedback, and that goes back to the creative abrasion and encouraging debate and discussion. And don't react when people give you feedback. Don't freak out and start self-justifying. Just say thank you and take it away and let it sit and see what happens. One of my interviewees is a Black woman in the UK, and she talked about how she deals with microaggressions. She says she doesn't shame people, but she very quietly organizes a one-on-one with that person and just asks them why they said the thing they said, and then explains to them how it might be received by people who are from another community or another background. You don't ever need to shame people. I think shaming is the worst thing a leader can do. If you've got something to say that you think might be difficult, or you want to hear something as a leader, you want some feedback, do it quietly. Do it directly with that person.
And that will do it for part 2 of our 4-part conversation with author, reputation management advisor, and podcaster, Charlotte Otter. Hope you really enjoyed this, sort of a snapshot of how we can do a little bit of work for ourselves when it comes to reputation management, what we need to focus on. Well, the conversation continues tomorrow. We'll be talking about relationships with our teams, because reputation isn't just about the organization. It isn't about outside the organization. There's also some work we may need to do and need to understand when it comes to those we're responsible for. And Charlotte's going to help us get a little bit more focused, a little bit more intentional when it comes to that kind of reputation management. I hope you'll join us. And of course, make sure that you are subscribed to Relationships at Work, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on your favorite podcast app, whatever works for you. I just want to make sure you don't miss any of these episodes as we get a little bit more focused Monday through Thursday in ways that I hope is going to be a little bit more useful to you as we focus on these themes. Anyway, I'll leave it there, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Take care.